I mean, I still have this bottle of 2XO sitting here on my desk.
There's also a XO Marmite, which is an extra aged Marmite. Yeah. It's premium. It's got like a black label with like gold trim.
That's amazing.
It's funky. It's some real funky stuff.
I bet.
If you're a Marmite head, this is kind of like the Malort of the Marmite world.
Tonight's the night you fight your dad, Marmite.
Yeah, basically. Get super fucked up on Marmite and just like, wake up in the drunk tank.
Again.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that sound. It's gonna get you some in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Damon Bolte.
I'm Souther Teague.
And I'm Greg Benson, and we are back again with our long-awaited, multi-award-winning, triple platinum end-of-year wrap-up show, where we're our own guests.
That's right.
This is actually our 5th year doing it, which is insane. I know. And I was thinking about this last night before we did this show, that the first time we did it was kind of an accident.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing the math in your head, the first time we did it was the year 2020, and I believe our guest canceled on it at the last minute. I think their exact response was, fuck, holy shit, fuck, the world's ending, holy shit, can't make the show, fuck, run for your lives. I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically the vibe of it. And we just decided to kind of,
well, it's a happy
talk
accident,
amongst ourselves.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's been good for us to recap, and I think it's cool for the listeners too. I will say this: there's two things I want to say just at the top of the show here. But the next time you listen to the show, if I'm doing my math correctly, this will be 15 years at the beginning of January, right? For the Speakeasy. Okay, great. Because I think I've said that the last 2 years. Thinking that it was the 15th year.
I think you did too.
And I like to mention this every year before, because we're not on until after New Year's. But people do try January. People make New Year's resolutions and all these things. There was some article I read. I can't remember. It was either Martha Stewart or Oprah. And every year I say something about it. I should probably do the research and figure out who said it. But I thought it was a really cool thing. Rather than making resolutions that 99.9% of the people fail on, do a recap of the year and highlight all the good stuff that, whether it's a ticket stub from a show, a newspaper clipping from an article or a book, or, some nice pictures you got, a trip that you took, just awards, any of these things.
Accomplishments of any kind, right?
Positive stuff. So, and then then you're like, all right, you go into the new year feeling good about the previous year. I will say this though, this year has really sucked for me personally, and I think it sucked for a lot of people. I'm not just talking politics. It was just a really weird year. I don't know what the hell, but I do want to recap the positive things from 2025 and talk about some of those highlights. And I think, we are lucky enough to get to travel a lot. So, I got to go to some places this year that I'll talk about a little bit later in the show. But as far as like that side of things goes, it was a really awesome year. And one of those things that kind of popped up that, we talk about current events and trending styles, bars, restaurants, and the industry. So many more hi-fi lounges, listening rooms. This has been something going on in places like Tokyo for a really long time, in London, but we started seeing them hit the US kind of a little while back. There's one close to Grand Army called Public Records, I believe, which is actually the guy who designed the sound system in there. Basically, the entire room is the sound system, right? Mm-hmm. My twin brother's really into vintage hi-fi stuff, and this guy Devin Turnbull designed the room, and it's basically you're in a giant speaker cabinet. And that's where the dance floor is and the DJ booth and all that stuff. So it's cool to we always complain about, in the bar world and in even in the kitchen. It's like, man, it seems like they're rarely ever designed by bartenders or chefs, respectively. Respectively. And so it makes sense that you would design your live music room with someone who's an expert in that. So we've been seeing a lot of these places pop up, and it's kind of interesting to me. I know there's like some in the Pacific Northwest and specifically Seattle. I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's interesting to me because you have to, as a customer, you have to kind of change your vibe. Now, to explain these hi-fi bars, the back bar might not even have any booze on it. It might just be records and like Macintosh and Sansui and Marantz speakers and receivers and amps and all this stuff. It's almost like walking into a record store more than a bar. And we love going to record stores, so why not mix the two? So, right. But that means as a customer, you can't be like, people will go in there to do like, typically it's not all night long. They'll have like one album that they play and feature for that night. And everyone, it's like you invited them over to your living room to listen to, Houses of the Holy by Zeppelin, or, some iconic album or something new that is multi-frequency that they can really show off with the sound system. But as a customer, you kind of have to like be prepared for that. And I don't think the majority of American bar goers are there yet, because typically we use the bar as a place to get loud at, or a lot of them. And I'm just kind of like generalizing because we would probably have more of those styles of bars if we were. I don't.
I think you're right, and I think the American style is too big. That's the problem, right? When you go to these record bars in Tokyo, etc., they're tiny, so it's not as hard to get 12 or 15 people on the same level as it is to get 50 people on the same level. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's, even when you said dance floor, I was like, oh wow, I've never been to one that was that big. Like it's like we call them listening bars because you just go sit and listen. You don't really get up and dance. There's not enough room.
Well, that particular place, they do have that set up in the bar area, and then there's like another section. Megan Montagano, who was at Extra Fancy when I worked there before, she was the lead bartender when they were opening, and I think pretty much everyone in the industry knows this by now. But I love seeing bars and restaurants when they're still under construction before they open. And so she knew that. She knew that I was close by at Grand Army. She invited me over to check it out. And I got to see it. I got to meet Devin Turnbull, which is kind of crazy. My brother's super jealous about that because he's such a hi-fi nerd. But, so there was like two different sections, that where there's a bar area, but then there was also like, if there's like a big time DJ in town that was going to spin, and perform for the evening, they could do that in the big room and then kind of have a more chill vibe in the bar area. But yeah, I mean, I still think that, I think the one, man, I'm blanking on the one. I'm gonna have to do a quick search, but,
well, I kind of want to, it's the end of the year. Let's get a little navel gazy. Like, why do you think these things are kind of having a resurgence?
It's called, it's called Shibuya Hi-Fi Vinyl Bar, which is
hell yeah.
Yeah, that's in Seattle. Glad I found that. But the thing is, they have from what I understand, from what my brother told me, they have like a separate room where they'll do like the listening kind of section. So it's almost like going to like a private dining room, if you will, for like an hour and listening to a record and having cocktails curated with it. There's like, there's not a lot of chatter because it's all very curated. So I think that's the only way I can see it working in the United States as of right now.
Yeah. But again, answer the question, Senator. Why do you think these things are really taking off? Why are people thirsting for this kind of curated experience, you think?
Well, okay. So there's all kinds of theme bars in the world, right? And one of them, being like a hi-fi bar, what's really cool about it is, I can tell you from my brother's experience, and just seeing, holy shit, so expensive, and like once you go down that rabbit hole, it's like, he may or may not have spent $80,000 on a pair of speakers, I cannot confirm nor disconfirm that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think as much as people like to go out, they like to stay in. And if you're going to stay in, you're going to premiumize your own home experience. So if you're a nerd already about these kind of things in your home, then suddenly someone opens one that's outside your home, then suddenly you're trying to reversing the flow. You're trying to get people to come back out.
Yeah, but even in New York City, you've got a finite amount of space in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
having a gigantic record collection or a really intense stereo system, your neighbors are going to fucking kill you for having that just the sound system alone. And it doesn't really do a service to it because you can't really turn it up.
I don't know, man. My neighbors have heard a lot of weird shit coming out of my apartment and we're still friends. But I take your point.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about another big trend that's been sweeping headlines this year, high dives. But I think this is actually, let's save that for later.
We're going hi-fi to high dive.
Good. Yeah, hi-fi to, right. That's literally why I put it in the show map that way. I'm like, this will be fun. But we've kind of already started talking about two things you wanted to talk about, Souther, which is these kind of immersive spaces and also premiumization. So this will also give me more chance to crack. I don't normally drink during these shows anymore, but because it's our year-end one, I got one nice little light lager from friend of the pod, Dale's over here.
Crack one with
so you do your business, Souther. This will give me time to
I'm
enjoy
drinking
this
some of
over
the
here.
2XO bourbon that we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, still sitting here on my desk.
Nice. People ask me sometimes if it's cool to have like booze that just gets sent to your house all the time, and I'm like, it is, honestly. It is quite nice.
Yeah,
it's like you're excited to see the mailman. I was always excited to see the mailman. I think I have a fascination with the United States Postal Service. I always have.
Is that why you were the head?
Started when I was a kid.
It.
Yeah, started when I was a kid. Maybe I never told you that. I'll tell you real fast. When I was a kid, my grandfather owned a service station, Teagues, Texaco, in Cobb County, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And he had the contract with the local postal hub to maintenance and wash their vehicles. And every summer, I lived in Florida. Every summer, I would go up to visit my grandparents for a couple of weeks, and I would stay at their house. And I was 11 years old, and he would be like, walk down. It's not even 2 blocks, really. Walk down the 2 blocks, hop in one of those Jeeps with the wrong hand drive, and drive it up here and run it through the washer, the car wash, and then drive it back and get another one. And that's what you're doing all day. So as a child, literally a child, I was driving USPS postal Jeeps, and that's where my love and fascination with the USPS
did not
came
know
from.
that about you. I didn't know that. I knew that you had kind of inherited that hat, but
then over time I bought 3 as an adult. I bought 3 postal Jeeps in a row, drove them until they just literally the first one. My intent, the first one, my intent was to destroy it. I bought it and I drove it without doing any maintenance or anything until it just fell apart. Then I bought another one and treated it better. Then I bought a third one. And then when I bought that first one, that's when my boss at the time drew my name to be his Secret Santa. He he paid his USPS letter carrier in Chicago for his hat, $20. And I wore that hat every season for 27 seasons.
Yeah, is it retired now?
Oh yeah, if you touch it too hard, it's going to fall apart. I had to
I didn't know that about your grandfather, but my grandfather also had a Texaco station in Lone Wolf, Oklahoma. Pete's.
So ours was, what was it called?
Pete's. His name was Otto, but everyone called him Pete.
Yeah. So mine was Teagues, Texaco, but it started before that when I was a very small child. I remember still it was Teagues Gulf. I'm not exactly sure what business Gulf deal station had to happen at some point when I was maybe like 7. It switched to Teagues, Texaco.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was a Gulf.
I think we've got a whole spin-off show going on.
Yeah. Here. Let's talk auto mechanics. Yeah, and then over the years, the bays got slowly closed in, and it became just a convenience store instead of multi-bay, whatever. And then my grandfather obviously retired and sold it. And anyways, premiumization is what I wanted to talk about. That plus, as you mentioned, the experiential and immersive, and I think the hi-fi lounges fit into that as well. And we've seen the rise of both of these things to our betterment and detriment. I think the premiumization, I think, is kind of ruining things for people. The creation of everything has to be so special and unique that then it becomes so expensive. And we're in an economic time that people are being quite wary about where and how they spend their dollars. And I'm kind of, and I wanted to talk about it just a little, at least to acknowledge it, but I don't think it's the best trend. I don't think everything always has to be, I don't want to say the best. I do want things to be good, but I think this notion of everything having to be perfection, and stellar and above board, or above and beyond, I should say. I don't like that trend. The trend of being in an immersive space, I think those are pretty cool. What's the one down? We had them on the show. The one down in Arizona that's like a train station. Is it Arizona?
Grand Central. Patrol.
I don't think
Century Grand.
Century Grand. There we go.
Yeah.
That thing seems cool, and they've built another one since then. Apparently, that's like you're inside of an airplane. And they've got
Cool.
Yeah.
Places like Paradise Lost right here in New York City, which are just deeply immersive in a brand new iconography all around tropical cocktails that is not appropriative. Just even the entryway to that space is unique and fun. Like I've always loved, all the way back to the early days of things like PDT, the transportive, like go into a place and then be obviously off the streets of especially New York into the place, but then go through that space to get to the space that you're actually going to is really like just changes your mindset and like where you are. And I'm loving seeing those places arrive. And
it's like double removed in a way, from
like you're peeling off the layers,
Yeah.
I had to go through a hot dog stand into a phone booth to become into the bar, or whatever. But that means 2 layers ago I left behind the streets of New York. I'm really removed from it, and that sets the tone for your evening and it changes your outlook. I love that stuff. I also just love, even what you've done for years over at Grand Army, the themed menus. Like that's maybe not an immersive situation, but when you look down the bar, like I always use yours as the example, even though I'm colorblind, the one all the menu was pink, all the drinks were pink, right? So even if you are in that room and there's 40, 50 people in there, but you look down the bar and everybody's drink kind of looks the same, then suddenly you're all here together.
They at least don't clash.
Right.
There's a colorway that goes through it, and it was pink as fuck. So I think it's cool that like when we put these shows together every week, we put a show map together. But I think some of these are really intertwined, right? I mean, like you're talking about premiumization, we're talking about high dives and hi-fi bars, right? But the thing is, like, and I wanted to kind of save this a little bit because I want to ask it towards the end of the show where some of your favorite places and things, but. I had a really cool year. I'm being the positive guy now.
I know I'm going to have to come in and tie break at the end about whether we feel good or bad about 2025.
Yeah, well, I mostly...
there are things I feel good about.
I want to feel good, yeah. But, spending time in Indianapolis and Cincinnati, going back to Oklahoma City, holy shit. That city, like, I'm not saying it just because I'm from there. Man, like, every bar has a cocktail program. Even like the dive bars, and it's like a high dive situation, but there's no pretension. There are some really, really fancy cocktail bars there, and like a couple of my classic spots have since gone away, the High Low Club, VCDs, but there's just so much more there, and like people are really into it. And I spent some time in Wilmington, North Carolina, which I want to talk about a little bit here. Virginia and Richmond. A good amount of time in Charleston, South Carolina, in Atlanta, but like a lot of these places, were I hadn't really been down the Eastern Seaboard so much. I'd been to Atlanta, but I was really impressed with the Carolinas and with Virginia. And man, Robbie Dow used to work at Grand Army. He opened up a fucking perfect bar. He's going to be a guest on our show next year. It's in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's called Bespoke. It's a beautiful old corner in a cute little downtown area, and it's like a coffee shop and a Morrow heavy cocktail bar, and everything is done. It's the closest to perfect. It's so inspiring. It's one of my favorite. It's definitely in my top 3 bars in the world that I've been to, and it happens to be in a town that I didn't really know anything about or the existence of in North Carolina.
I hear Wilmington, I still think Delaware. Like I wasn't even really aware there was a second Wilmington until I started talking to Robbie about it.
It's like bar. Springfield, There's whatever. But
if you look really hard, you can figure out what state it's in.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing, and I can't wait to have him on the show to talk about it. I was lucky enough to go there, but the thing about all these places, especially in Oklahoma City, there is this kind of thing where there's a bar that we went to that was in an old safe in the basement of a bank. That kind of thing you're talking about, like this immersive kind of escapism. It does come with a price tag, but
of course,
I will say this: from 5 years ago, when the pandemic hit and people were drinking less but better, I think that's even slowed down. That's changed, like in turbulent financial times, it was a thing where people were like, yeah, well, I'm not going to buy like 5 bottles of, Rittenhouse this week, but I am going to buy a bottle of, Thomas Handy, or whatever, but it's kind of weird. I don't even see that really trending. I think that bars are still the place to go to try things at a price that's not so shocking. There's not a bottle, sticker shock for a bottle. It's like, you know what I mean? You can go out and have a cocktail or a drink somewhere, but that's what's different about 5 years ago, is because you couldn't go to a bar. Right. So there's a whole different like balance of finance to accessibility and premiumization. And I think what's really happening now is like, there's a very shocking thing that's happened in bars around the country that I've seen in my travels that has gone against the premiumization and kind of made a balance in the world of the bar. And that is that this year I saw that Malort is distributed outside of Chicago. Everywhere I went, there's Malort. And, there's something really great about that, even if you hate it, and most people do. But it's kind of a nice thing to know that, like, there's still us nerds out there who appreciate this challenging thing. And it's, like, very insider also. But, you might have your Buffalo tea collection, Buffalo Trace and tea collections, your Pappy Van Winkles. But then all of a sudden you see a bottle of Malort back there and you're like, all right. So you still have fun, is what it seems like. Yeah. You're still willing to have fun.
Yeah. I love how much other people hate it. That's one of my favorite things about Malort.
Yeah.
Okay. This does bring us back to high dives, because I'm actually, and this is good because I think you are clearly on board with this concept. I don't think I am. I don't think I like the high dive.
We've talked about this before. I don't like them at all. My analogy was always, and I don't care which of these two characters you're playing or I'm playing, it doesn't matter. But if one of us is eating, Chateaubriand and one of us is eating a hot dog, one of us is in the wrong place. Yeah. Right. So I don't like this notion of having like a Genesee cream ale and a shot of mellow corn right next to a guy who's having, the Shinji's tropical orange thing that's inside of an actual orange. You know what I mean? Like, one of us is in the wrong bar.
I think there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to split that difference. Like one of my, the example I always come back to is Bata in Tucson, who had one page on their menu that had 2 items on it. One was a $250 dram of Japanese whiskey. The other was a Miller High Life. And I kind of liked that. I liked that it's like, okay, this is a space where we have fun with these premium things. And also there's an implication, like, honestly, we think these two things kind of like go nicely together. You have the whiskey, you cleanse your palate a little bit, rinse and repeat. But there's something about the lack of authenticity of being in a cocktail bar and wanting to cosplay that you're in a dive bar or vice versa, that just, it gets under my skin. I'm having a really hard time putting. I have an overarching theory that actually ties together everything we've been talking about so far, but I'm going to sit on that for another minute or two here. I think it might have something to do with this, but I think it is this sense that you can have, a cocktail in a place and not feel like a snob, or you can have a Miller High Life and not feel like you're kind of slumming it. Like you are doing both of those things, and that's okay. We contain multitudes. I slum it. I'm a snob. I'm a bunch of different things on any given day, and trying to microwave that down to the same level feels inauthentic in a way that just doesn't do it for me.
I mean, for me, it just feels like, I think what you're describing here is that what ends up happening is both things miss. You know what I mean? Was the Chateaubriand that good? Was the hot dog that bad? You know what I mean? So both missed. You know?
Okay, so I want to, like, as someone who kind of floats in that world, because I think Grand Army it's more. I think it's more high than dive.
It is,
you know, it's
for sure.
It's you know, it's oysters and like kind of fancy, like delicate foods, cocktails, thoughtful. But then we do have, you know, a tall boy of Narragansett and a shot of you know, a hard start. You know, and that's what's cool about that place. I think it's more elevated than it is, you know, divey. Would never call it dive. We have like really expensive artwork. But the thing is, when you're talking about like this high dive concept, like I was hanging out with Tober in Austin, and you know, he's got Nickel City, which I consider that to be like, I think about like Bushwick Country Club 15 years ago, when like Tanya Guffey and Nick Jarrett and Frankie Cocktails were working there, and you know, it's a dive bar, kind of a rock and roll dive bar, but they would go in on Sundays and they would make cocktails.
They'd bring their own glassware, I remember.
Bring their own glassware, all their own ingredients.
So they could have some Nick and Nora's and Coops, because they didn't have them at the Bushwick Country Club.
Exactly. It was all just tumblers, you know, for everything. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't think that you can. There's the group that owns like Skinny Dennis and Lucky Dog and all that stuff. You know, they've been really good about making like honky tonk dive bars in New York City, mostly in Brooklyn. But they're really good about, you know, if you say that about like a high dive, you're kind of saying the same thing about a tiki bar, because so much went into cosplay in a way of the interior decoration and all this stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, and even at a tiki bar, you can still get like a beer and a shot of rum. But I don't know. They are different things. But I feel like you know, like I play in a country band. And I wear white T-shirts I buy from Michael's for like $3, but I also wear Rolex and Gucci glasses and ride motorcycles and shit. You know, so like I'm kind of
and it works for you. And I think that actually kind of comes back to what you're talking about with Grand Army. Like Grand Army is an unpretentious cocktail bar, but I'm with you. I would never call it a dive. A dive to me is a place where like there has to be at least an extant chance that I'm going to leave with hepatitis. If that is not the case, it is not a dive bar to me.
There has to be lingering cigarette smells in there, whether it's from 30 years ago or from last night after they closed the bar. You know,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
And also, a dive bar really needs to kind of feel dangerous to a certain degree. To me, it's like, you know, like when you walk in, people kind of turn around and look at you, like all the regulars, and you're like, hey.
give you a sneer and then look back at their beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That kind of
and maybe that's the problem I have with the high dive concept, is it sands the sort of rougher edges off of both. Because just as there's kind of a little bit of a whiff of danger of walking into a dive bar, there's a little bit of a whiff of danger of walking into like a really fancy place too.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
you know, as me, just kind of a part of the unwashed slobby masses, I was at a place where I was dealt 3 forks and I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this. I am out of my depth here.
What?
I can't pretend to be this rich without doing some research first. Not to say that all cocktail bars are like that, obviously not, but I think that there is a danger that you will feel out of your depth in a way that will initially be uncomfortable, but that which trained professionals who are good at their job will be able to guide you through.
I think that's what it is. I mean, all we really want, I mean, you do want a sassy old lady who's been working there, you know, for, you know, 70 years or whatever, giving you shit. But you also want to, I will give you an example of a great high dive in a way. Now you're going to have to follow me here. That's been in New York City it's one of the oldest bars in New York City, the Ear Inn. So you go into Ear Inn and it is a dive bar, but it's also a restaurant. When they serve dinner at night, you get white tablecloths. And they have allocations for a lot of high-end whiskeys. There's a guy named Ian who works there, and he has worked in fancy hotel bars, and also he knows how to make strong, awesome classics. And, you know, he knows his shit. But then you've also got the staff who've been working there for 40 years that like call you hon and sweetie and things like that. You know, as soon as they warm up to you, you know, but it's, to me, like if you're going to do it, it's like I would say maybe don't start a new place, find an old place and kind of polish it up just a tiny bit, you know. And and that's what's happening right now. with the Paper Mill Creek Saloon, which is the closest bar to my place. And it happens to be my favorite place in Marin County, if not the entire Bay Area. And my buddy Jared, he was GM before. He does all the show booking. He's from the East Coast. He was a musician, so he gets all of it. And they're just cleaning up the bar. It's famous, like Jerry Garcia and Janis Joplin shot a hole in the bar one night when she was wasted.
Cool.
It's got there's a documentary out there about it. But the cool thing is it changed hands, and really all they're doing is just bringing it up to code and making it a little bit nicer, and offering kind of a better experience, it was ATM only, cash only, and now they're going to start taking credit cards. So I mean that just makes the experience better for anyone, but also adding some nicer booze behind the bar and maybe some cocktails, and that's all it really is to me. It's like the high dive concept is interesting when people make something that seems like it's been there for a long time, but I've also been guilty of that in the whole career, like Prime Meats. I mean, that wasn't a dive bar, but it was definitely a time capsule kind of throwback to the 1800s.
Yeah, it was.
That's all I'm going to say about that right now. But I would say that if you're going to do a high dive concept, it's make sure that you keep the dive part of it. Don't just put just don't make it dirty, and then you got to make the price for entry and for your drinks. You gotta have something for everyone, and usually make sure you keep that lower price point for it to still. I always say that a bar is only as good as the people who are in it. So if you go to a dive bar and it's full of a bunch of finance bros, I'm gonna walk right out. That's not a dive to me anymore.
There goes the neighborhood, man. So Souther, I know that you, like me, are no stranger to a multitude of different living arrangements, living with partners, living with roommates, living by yourself. And I'm sure you have found, like me, that your personal assessment of how much room in the freezer should be dedicated to making just ice is, let's say, a touch higher than the general populations. And I thought that this was just going to be the way things were forever until I realized there is a clear ice machine that sits on your countertop.
Yeah, Claris. I love this thing. I've had one for quite some time. It cranks out 4 beautiful 2x2 perfectly glass clear cubes every 8 hours. What you do is you get up in the morning and you harvest the ice out of it and put it into a zip top bag into your freezer. And then you fill it with water and you go to work. And when you come home from work, you harvest again and refill it. And then you repeat that and you've got 40 cubes of ice for the weekend.
And we haven't even gotten to the fact that the ice it makes is beautiful. It's crystal clear, it's nice and hard, it's nice and cold, and it will make your drinks look fantastic and sexy. So if you want to have sexy cocktails for the holidays and not get into any fights with your friends and significant others about how much freezer space you're taking up, go to craftclaris.com, and when you're ready to buy, use promo code SPEAKEASY10 for 10% off your order. That's Speakeasy, the numbers 10 for 10% off. Cheers. This actually brings up another trend that is kind of related to the high dive thing. And I think maybe why the high dive thing gets under my skin a little extra is this migration to the poles of luxury versus affordability. I remember I was at a talk actually by a bunch of travel writers, and they said that there's really no money left in here's a nice middle-class vacation that you can go to. It's either where can you go for dirt cheap? How can you game the fucking dynamic pricing Black Mirror hellscape that we all live in order to squeeze some fun out of this existence? Or what is the ultra mega premium luxury experience that you can have in, I don't know, Michoacan or whatever. And it's they're out there. All of the luxury places have already been picked over. Now it's trying to be okay, what's this kind of former backwater / place the State Department is maybe not that you can find a luxury hotel in. But no. I don't know, that first of all, that just concerns me as a general trend in our society. And I think it's part of the reason why I look on this current slate of high dives as a little bit askance. But what do you all think? I think we're kind of seeing that from the business side as well. You two own bars. What are you seeing in terms of that, migration?
Yeah, you're kind of right. Like they're definitely. It seems to me we're cutting out the middle, but that's what society at large is doing as well, right? We have a tremendous amount of wealth concentrated at a smaller portion of the people, and so that's who gets advertised to take these premium crazy trips that you're just talking about, or buy these premium over the top products. And then we have the bulk of the rest of the rabble out here who don't make as much money. So we are left to, as you sort of described, pick up the crumbs that's left over. Um, you said, I run bars and I do. So we'll talk about Amore for a second. At Amore, man, we still hesitate every time we have to raise the prices. And we raised the prices back at the end of last year / top of this year. And we haven't done it again this year, thank God, because I feel like we're at the threshold of where it just can't go any higher. But we still have a general rule of, anything on the back bar is a blanket price. All of our cocktails are the same price. Anything on the back bar is a blanket price if you want to have something custom made or if you want to sip a shot of something or whatever. So we try and maintain that line of the more low end of it, because I am a firm believer. I've said it numerous times on this show and other outlets as well. Alcohol, first of all, it is a luxury. You don't need it to survive. We might think we do, but we don't.
Some days it feels that way, but it doesn't make it true.
Brother, many days it feels that way. But it doesn't make it true. So it's already a luxury in and of itself. And I don't want to price people out of this small luxury that they can have in their lives and make their day a little bit better. So like, I don't know. I think I'm rambling a little bit, but I am not excited by this notion. Again, I said it at the top of the show, like, I don't think everything always has to be great. If everything always is great, then nothing's great. Then you lose sight of your objectivity. Objectivity comes from difference, and if there's no difference, then it's every experience you have isn't 5 stars. You know what I mean? There was an episode of the original Twilight Zone where this guy, he realizes that he's dead, and he was a kind of a gambler and a playboy in his life, but in afterlife he's at a casino, and the women are all over him, and every time he touches a slot machine he wins, and every time he plays a hand of poker he wins, and the stakes are bigger and juicier and thicker and all this stuff, and it shows him there for a period of time, maybe a month or so, and towards the end he's like, man, this really sucks. I really thought heaven would be so much better than this, like, but I'm so bored. All I do is win. And the guy looks at him and goes, this ain't heaven.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
classic.
This is hell, bro. Right? It is hell if everything's great all the time. Not to say that I don't think we should strive to have good experiences for people and things like that, but you have to understand, like, the bumps and the warts are what make things really good. That make things, that make you appreciate things. And take them, not for granted. So I don't like this. That's why I wanted to talk about premiumization. I don't like that either. I don't think everything needs to be tweaked until it's the absolute best. I think we need to accept things as good and enjoy them for what they are. And then even what we just talked about, the sort of high dives, right? Like, I love a dive bar. I also love a over the top cocktail bar. Like, I just don't like them together because I want to experience those things separately so that I can really enjoy them as they are, Mm-hmm. Like, again, when you said something about rounding the edges off, it does, but it rounds the edges off of both. It makes the dive part of the bar not seem divey enough, and it makes the nice part of the bar not seem nice enough. So somehow you're just kind of squarely in the middle, and I guess this is okay. I'd rather be more excited about how, like, oh man, this dive bar is it like Max Club Deuce in Miami. Let's go, man. 24 hours a day. I love the checkerboard floor. I love the crazy pink neon lighting. It's incredible. And it's, it is not trying to serve me, any kind of molecular cocktail. It is not, it is what it is. It does what it says on the tin, Yep. And then when I go to places like even PDT still, enchants me when I wander in there, or, the immersiveness of like Paradise Lost, or even Katana Kitten and Super Bueno. I know I'm just rattling off New York City bars, but that's been the bulk of my experience this year. I haven't done a lot of traveling, but, I want to appreciate the thing for what it is, not for it trying to be everything. Applebee's is everything. Chili's is everything. Right. I don't want that.
And okay, this tees up exactly this theory that I think is kind of my unifying theory of 2025. And it actually is going to end in a hopeful note. So by the time it's done, I'm going to kick it back to your territory, Damon, and we're hopefully going to be optimistic about what comes next. But I was on the subway recently. It was on the N train, and the N train, for those who, aren't snobby coastal elites like me, the N train is one of the best trains to take in New York City because between Brooklyn and Manhattan, it actually goes over the Manhattan Bridge, and it gives you possibly the best view of New York City that you can get outside of a helicopter. You got the Brooklyn Bridge, you got Jane's Carousel down there on the Brooklyn side, you can see the Statue of Liberty, and then over on the other side, you got all of downtown, all of Five, you got City Hall, you got One World Trade Center, you got all of those buildings. It's breathtaking. I've seen it hundreds of times, and I still look at it every single time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was on the train, and at Barclays Center, which is the last stop in Brooklyn before it goes over the bridge, this guy gets on with one of these like 3-foot tall speakers that is on and connected to his phone. And he starts just like blasting Lil Jon. And at first I was annoyed. I was like, oh, this is ruining my beautiful reverie experience that I wanted to have. But I realized, you know what? I can choose to be delighted by this. I can choose to be delighted by the randomness of this experience and be like, you know what? New York, am I right? We've got these beautiful views, and then my eardrums are getting blasted out of my skull by Turn Down for What? And that's okay.
Yeah, it's part of it, right?
Yeah. And it made me realize, it was great. Like, that's the thing. But once I made the choice to enjoy it, it was fantastic. And it made me realize how used to purely curated experiences we are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guilty of this all the time. Like, if I have people over and I don't feel like, or I just, I get tired of changing the album every 30 minutes, I'll just put on a Spotify playlist and I'll just let the album curate a list of songs that are going to be vaguely similar to what I put on, that the algorithm thinks I'm going to like, and that basically get the job done. And there's not going to be anything intrusive that, I'm not going to put on Sam Cooke and all of a sudden I'm going to get Trent Reznor on there.
Right.
I like them both, but it's never going to do that because it's providing me a very sort of like narrowly bounded experience. And I think we're putting more and more of these pool noodles on our experiences in life. You can now I forget whether it's Uber or Lyft, you can request a silent ride.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck nuts, man. You. If you don't want to get into a car and risk having a conversation with a stranger, don't take a cab. Yeah, I don't know. If it matters that much to you, hire a fucking driver or something, or just get on the subway and put your headphones on.
I let them decide. You know what I mean? If I get in the car, I say, hello, how are you? What's going on? If they start chatting me, I chat them back. If they don't, I let it go. It is up to them. They are at work. It's a lonely fucking job for those guys and ladies. I would never touch that silent car button. I don't take a lot of cars in general, but I would absolutely never do that. I think it's abhorrent.
I took my my first Waymo.
Oh my God!
While I was in Austin,
I also would never do that, just out of frankly fear at this point. Maybe maybe a couple years down the road.
It was not chosen. It was like an Uber Lyft situation.
Just shows up. Holy
showed
shit.
up, and it was on South Congress. I was like, where I was having some queso and some mango margaritas, as you do there, and
as one does.
Going back up to 2nd Street to the Line Hotel, and it was in the wrong lane to turn, so it caused a traffic jam. It was like trying to ask what kind of music we wanted to play, and it got to me. It was we were talking about it, and it's like, well, I guess they don't work on tips because they don't have to because they're not humans, but also they would have done a better job. Is this whole thing that we started talking about years ago with the whole like built-in hospitality versus I know you and our good friends at Union Square Hospitality Group had you had a debatable moment there, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I love talking to the drivers, if they want to, because it's a tough job, and especially I don't really go out at night much.
I think it's an isolating job. There are very few other jobs in the world where you are just alone for as long as they are, and weirdly not alone. He's not alone. There's someone in the car with him.
I also
they might be drunk or they're like making out in the back or whatever, and it's kind of like, ooh, like this is cringe. Sorry, like you wish you had that They probably wish they had one of those limo windows that would roll up so that the privacy glass.
They had the silent ride button. They could just be like, hey, keep it down back there.
Exactly.
But no, my favorite question to ask anytime I'm taking a cab from an airport, like if I land in a new city, I always ask the driver, I'm like, okay, so in this part of the world where you live, where are the bad drivers from? I am always fascinated by that question. In New Orleans, they're from Mississippi. In California, they're from Arizona. In Florida, they're from Georgia. In Georgia, they're from Florida. In South Carolina, they're from Florida. In North Carolina, they're from Florida. It's just and in anywhere in the mid-Atlantic, they're from Maryland. And we all know that is just an objective truth. It doesn't seem the sort of thing you'd be able to make that kind of a sweeping statement about, but it is true. But this is my point. If you open yourself up to these surprising experiences instead of this kind of okay, but very narrowly curated one, you're going to be surprised and delighted. And I promised I was going to end this on an optimistic note. I think people are starting to figure that out. And I think people are starting to open themselves up to things that will surprise them and take them out of this, 5-star rated dystopia that the tech bros have created for us. So see, I told you I'd bring it back into Damon territory at the end there.
Nice.
We're on the upswing in terms of that.
So
I think.
yeah, I mean, on that note, I always say that like you never know who you're talking to. If you're sitting at a bar, there's an unwritten contract that you are available to talk to anyone at the bar, whether they're across the bar from you or next to you or standing in the area. If you don't want to talk to people, go to the table. I don't give a fuck who you are. Like when you have private time, go to a table and don't take bar stools from people like that either are open to having conversations with strangers or actually just want to be there.
Or actively trying to have conversations.
Actively trying to have conversations, Yeah.
Yeah. If you're taking up a bar seat that someone then has to sit at a table where they're removed from the thing that they want to be at, then the system is breaking down.
Yeah. Unless you're hitting on somebody and being an asshole about it. But if you're not doing that, then... And the being an asshole about it part is key. Like, I think that, if you sit at a bar, I do think that you're sort of implicitly, like, open to the idea of being flirted with. Open to the idea of it. You don't have to, but there's at least...
You do a conversation that might be uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
That you don't know much about. You might sit next to a literal rocket scientist and like... but I want to hear about this, so I guess to me, that's when we talk about high dives and we talk about this separation in, premiumization, luxury versus affordability. Again, like, I think that, just going to a bar generally is about people more than anything, so you have to be open for that. Right. And then the fun quirkiness of a dive bar or the luxury elevated kind of experience. And I will remember the dive bar drinks more than I will the fancy cocktails, to be honest with you. Because usually...
Will you? Counterpoint. Will you?
Yeah.
I've been informed after the fact that I've been to dive bars that I have no recollection of. But
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, I do remember the cocktails that here nor there. But the thing is, and not saying that Dead Rabbit's a dive bar, because it's definitely not. But it was a pub during the day where I met these people. And then it changed my whole experience for the time that I was in Austin this last time. You know what I mean? It made everything completely different than what I had no expectations, but then having those conversations, meeting those people, and just like, it just veered everything off in a different path. And, gotta be game for that, because I had the greatest time.
Yeah. And I promised at the top of the show that I'd kind of be the tiebreaker between optimism and pessimism. And I don't know, 2025 was rough in a lot of ways that we've talked about on the show. And I don't really think we need to spell out for people at the end of the year. But there is a part of me that feels like people are choosing curiosity, choosing newness, choosing to look beyond things that haven't been working except for a small slew of very, very wealthy people. And I don't know, I could be wrong. Maybe I am. I'm open to this possibility. We'll discuss it in a year when we come back and talk about 2026. But I do feel like there's this hunger for experiences that make you curious and that surprise you. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that I have kind of a weird working theory, and I haven't articulated it well enough yet. But the notion that we can now stream basically television, what used to be television, what used to be scheduled television,
Right.
right? With a few exceptions, though, there are these shows that only drop one episode a week, and then everybody kind of watches. But like,
I love
remember, it wasn't that long ago that television was something of a unifying thing. Right now, we have events. You have sporting events or the Oscars or things like that, and everybody watches that, and then you talk about that the next day at work or whatever. But we used to have that like kind of on a daily basis. You could be like, "Hi, did you catch whatever?" I don't know. I'm going to date myself and say shows that don't exist, but like Cheers or Seinfeld or whatever, The Simpsons even, right? And we did these things together, though we weren't together. And then now that got stripped away, and it became, well, at least we can go to the movies when a new movie drops. We'll all try and go on opening night or the next few nights, and we'll still have this kind of
Avatar: Fire and Ash in 3D, baby. Woo! I have such low hopes, but I'm so excited to see it in a crowd full of people.
Right, there's that crowd notion, but then now that's being slowly stripped away, right? Like I wanted to go see Frankenstein, and just because of my schedule, I never made it, and then I realized it was only in theaters for a month because now they put it on Netflix, which I don't have. So like we're taking away all these opportunities for us to gather, and instead just saying, well, go watch it on your TV at home. Which, man, come on, that movie's not going to be as the grand spectacle that it should be on my small screen. It's not going to have the sound system or the big screen feel. So that seems like a detriment to the art form itself. But what I'm really driving at is that more and more and more we're choosing options where we just isolate ourselves from one another. And if you're going to go to a bar, I'm in Damon's camp here, you have to be open and willing to be approached by obviously the people who work at the bar so they can talk to you and serve you, but the people around you, because I think we're getting hungrier and hungrier for places to be communal. The experiences that we used to have that made us communal have been slowly kind of peeled away from us.
But I also think we never won't want
working theory
in some way.
No, we'll figure it out. Obviously, we're figuring it out. But I think it's just becoming less and less. We have less and less opportunities to have a shared experience with one another.
Well, do you think sorry to go full circle here, but that means that high dives are probably the answer to that because they will bring more people together.
Well,
you've got the people who want the Pappy Van Winkle, and you've got the people who want a beer and a Fernet, and that's kind of like the great equalizer. So we might have.
Yeah, but I think
I think the solution is to make the people from Gramercy Tavern go to International Bar and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think that's the solution.
Well, I think going back to what I said earlier, you can go to places that have everything. They're called diners. They have like a steak and eggs and clams on the half shell and matzo ball soup, but none of them are very good. You go to places that specialize. So you want to go to a dive bar, go to the dive bar. They specialize in that. They're going to give you frosty cold crappy beer and a shot of whatever you want that's filled so high you can't pick it up without spilling half of it. But then go to the nice bar for the nice thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me piggyback on that because we did touch on the dive bar being and the cocktail bar being kind of intimidating for some who maybe it's their first time there, or maybe it's their first time going to a place like that. It's like this goes back to being a good patron. You go in,
or just
be
being
nice.
A good person.
Just go in and just be good. Just be a good person and be friendly. And you know what? Next thing you know, you're friends with the entire bar. You're friends with the bartender at the fancy cocktail bar. You're talking. You say, "Hey, man, my favorite drink is a fucking Long Island iced tea or whatever." And they're like, "Well, we can fix that for you."
Or I can make you one that will be the best one you've ever had.
Yeah, but exactly. So
I think
that's what it all comes down to. Don't be afraid. Go out there, be with people. And be friendly, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I mean, this is reminding me of a methodology that I employed when I left home at a tender age, 17, and I lived in 12 states before winding up here in New York. And something that I would do in every state that I moved to, and this is probably going to also explain a little bit of my maybe dabble with alcoholism, but something I would do is I would explore my new neighborhood for a couple of weeks until I found a place that I really liked, and then I would go to that bar every night for a month, one solid month. You go to a bar every night for a month. You now know everybody who works there. You've probably met the owner at this point. You've certainly met many of the regulars who come in. You know what nights they come in. You can create an entire community around yourself just by haunting a place. Mm-hmm. And I still have friends from some of those places, like Gravity Pub in Atlanta. I still have plenty of friends from there. and that place doesn't exist anymore. Gravity Pub, the black hole of fun. It was awesome. Yeah, their T-shirt said the black hole. They had two, one that said the black hole of fun, and one that said Gravity Pub, not for everyone.
Great.
Loved it. You know, a guy named Darcy was the owner. Incredible. But you know, what I'm saying is like the public house is a great place to, you know, find your community. If you find the bar that you like, it's probably filled with the people you like because they like the same bar that you like. You've already got something in common, you know. I think we drifted away from talking about the trends of the year, and we're just kind of talking about our philosophies. But I think I think it's good. It's certainly worth stating. You know,
that's what we feel like talking about. So I mean, like, but also to even expand on that, Souther, then you know, you've met the community, and then you can ask them like, hey, where else do you like to go around here? And then
100%,
they're going there. You know, what are your favorite restaurants? And then you know, then you're in it. You know, and yeah, I love that. That's how it's supposed to be done. That's how it's been done for centuries and centuries, and somehow we got away from that.
Well, and I think the attempt to author that out of the human experience, first by COVID and then by Silicon Valley, and the proof that it kind of doesn't work and people don't like it, I don't know, fills me with a glimmer of hope, and I will happily take it in this day and age.
Sure.
Should we talk about, we had a few other things we wanted to chat about. Do we want to, I mean, obviously we all know that 2026 is going to be the summer of sherry, but do we want to talk about whether or not the low and no trend is going to continue?
I think it's not going away. I mean, we don't have to talk about it too much. I think that low and no is here to stay. You know, we even have full bars that are opening up that do either low or no alcohol. I think it's inclusive in a way that's good for the business, right? If people are going to be health oriented, or for whatever reason they're not drinking and they still want to come out and spend money at your space, they're looking for what we just talked about. They're looking for a community. They're looking for community. So I don't think it's going to go away. I still don't love it myself, not because it's not alcohol, but because the nomenclature just seems so absurd to me. You know, we don't. Alcohol has always been the modifier, not the non-modifier. You know, I don't know how to say that correctly, but
I think I know what you're
when
saying.
People say, "Give me something non-alcoholic," I'm like, "Here's a Coke." They're like, "Well, that's not what I mean." I'm like, "Well, what the fuck do you mean? This has no alcohol in it." You know, I want something unique and special and, you know, made, you know, with history and a story. I'm like, well, this stuff's 100 years old and it's got a ton of ingredients in it. It used to have cocaine in it. It's pretty special. You know what I mean? Like, what I don't get it. Most drinks are not alcohol. Alcohol is the modifier. We don't, you know, you get up in the morning and you have your coffee and your orange juice and maybe a seltzer water, and then you go to lunch and you have a Coca-Cola, and then
like our friend from
you haven't been drinking non-alcoholics all day. You've just not been drinking today.
Like a friend from Season, you're like, hey, so do you drink? He's like, I drink as soon as I wake up. I have water and a coffee and maybe a juice. You didn't ask about alcohol. You drink. So on that note, I don't see no and low going anywhere. I only see it. It has so much room for growth and to be, you know, just with more people from the industry getting involved in it, because it was just like seemed like a cash grab for a lot of people who were like in marketing. So now people like us are consulting on brands, you know, and people who actually work with the flavors and understand them and how to make that right and balanced. And so it's only getting better.
We'll eventually crack the code, like NA beer, you know, like even 5 years ago, it was still kind of crappy, and it's been around for 20 years. It took 15 years to crack the code, you know. The no
good.
ABV.
Now sometimes I reach for an athletic just because I like the flavor.
Yeah. So, you know, I think we'll crack the code. You know, I always talk about, you know, my restaurants are all vegan, and I talk about vegan cheese. And, you know, for years and years and years, for forever, all the cultures that are made to make the cheeses that you enjoy come from like 5 companies, and none of them were vegan. So there were no vegan cultures until, as Damon just said, there was a cash grab, or at least, you know, market demand meant that there was cash to be made. So these makers started making vegan cultures, and now the cheeses are excellent. We have excellent choices for vegan cheese now. We have excellent non-alcoholic beer. We've only really just begun in the last 5 to 7 years really trying to make NA spirits. Right. So I just don't think we're there yet. We will get there. I envision in 20 years from now, You'll look at any bar anywhere, high place, low place, dive, whatever, and you'll see a bottle of tequila, a bottle of NA tequila, a bottle of bourbon, and they'll all be good. And you can make your choice how you're drinking throughout the evening.
Right.
You know, I'll have an old fashioned that's NA. I'll have an old fashioned that's regular, like switching back and forth or whatever.
Yeah.
We simply haven't broken that code yet, and I just don't. You know, I want it to come faster, but at the same time, I don't. It's not gonna.
I want to point out something that's very obvious, and shout out pop-up that I went to this past weekend. I went to the museum, which is a pop-up from Misha and Bobby. They're both excellent. The museum's great. Cocktails based on the Museum of Natural History, so scratched a lot of nerd itches for me. They had a fantastic non-alcoholic drink on there, and my friend who I was with was like, "This looks awesome. Can you put gin in it?" And they were like, "Of course we can. Of course we can."
Hell yeah.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a limiting of
modifier.
your options. It's an expanding of it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, correct. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to look at it. It's expanding your choice.
Speaking of spirits, what were some things that really lit it up for you guys this year? I continue to be very impressed with Indian whiskey. The more I see of Indian whiskey, the more I'm really, really impressed with what they're doing with it. I think before the end of this decade, I would be surprised if it's not sort of on par with Japanese whiskey as another like country that we just think of as being where really good, really distinct whiskey comes from. But what about you guys? Anything really lighting your world on fire in 2025?
You know, I feel like I would have a better and more ready answer for this. I saw it on the show map and was thinking about it, but I didn't lay into it too hard. Over Thanksgiving, I was having some South African brandy, which I've had in the past. I think they're getting better as well. You know, it's you know, we think of that area of the world as growing grapes for wine, but then obviously that means someone's going to distill some of that, and that's where you're going to get brandy from. So there's some cool South African brandies out there that are worth paying attention to. I think we're seeing, you know, a little bit, and I just said South Africa, you said India. I think we're seeing a bit more interest, not necessarily directly from me, but just out there trending. We're seeing a bit more interest in global flavors at large. I think I don't think I've seen as much in the news and in bars about like soju and I was getting confused, soju and soju, right? And like even Baiju is making an appearance. I feel like it's globally the number one selling spirit in the world, right? But it's very concentrated to just China. But I don't know. There are definitely some cool things out there, and the world is we're never going to be finished exploring it all because we don't have enough time to get to it all. But I don't know. I think the general public is interested in global flavors.
That will give me a good segue to one of my favorite things of this year. Unfortunately, when I was in Austin, our schedules didn't meet up, but Jessica Graves, Monk Parakeet, holy shit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, for those chartreuse lovers out there, to have something made in Texas that is like a strong, really, literally strong, because it's 110 proof, just as green chartreuse, but rival for it, and at half the cost or less. That is, man, that bottle did not last long.
No, it did not.
Unfortunately, Jess is awesome, and we didn't have I was running around a launch, and so was Jess, and like she was going to like a bunch of shows that week, and unfortunately, we weren't. She went to a '90s rap and hip hop costume display at a museum, which. You know,
I thought you were going to say costume party, and I was like, no. That could go real bad in Texas. Yeah. Okay, museum, good.
Yeah,
continue.
Yeah, so that was cool. So that to me is really exciting. I have to say that Moon from our friend Darnell, who's my neighbor here in Marin County, which is his THC non-alc spirit, that's really fun. You know, I mean, like the flavor profiles are. It's not saying it's tequila. It's not saying it's rum. It's not saying it's whiskey or gin. It's just saying like London juniper. You know, like
right.
Here's just kind of what we're going for, but not even trying to like pretend that it's like, you know, there's a lot of NA spirits out there that are trying real hard, and even they just taste like capsaicin tea. You know,
all of them taste like tea to me. All
right.
of them.
But I really like that one, both for the, I just think it's kind of a cool light flavor, but also for the effect in not drinking alcohol. But I will say that one of my favorites, probably my favorite of this year, and it kind of rekindled and not only rekindled because we were friends and kind of acquaintances in New York, but we've since the show has happened, we've hung out several times. But with Rob Easter in Modern Ancient.
Oh yeah,
man, that stuff is
very cool.
incredible, and just the ethos behind it. It's like he and I, we're just seeing eye to eye on like Southwestern ingredients and native, indigenous ingredients, making these whiskey. I'm a big nerd when it comes to corn and heirloom varietals and all this stuff, and just the way that he thinks about this is it's not like anyone else has done before on a commercial level, and not that he's doing like a lot of it, but just someone who's like championing those ingredients and the history and the tribes, and like it's just in the area of the Southwest. It's like and not going with super flashy packaging to like try and sell you on something. It's like it's really modest and honest, and lets the juice really speak for itself. So that's probably my favorite. That is my favorite of the year. And
nice.
Well, stay tuned. Here is a fun collaboration coming.
Yeah,
year.
totally.
Yeah. Well, you touched on it just then in that conversation. We haven't talked too much about what are they called? Functional. Is that what they're called? Functional drinks.
Yeah.
Right. The ones that have adaptogens, or the ones that have THC, or or psilocybin, or what have you. I think those are on the rise as well. I don't think they're great for our business because I don't think they're great for our business because I don't think people mix that and alcohol, right? You kind of either like I'm gonna
have to tiptoe between the two. You can't
right.
Really, that'd be good for a listening hi-fi lounge though.
Yeah. But those are certainly on the rise, and I think we need to keep our eye on them, especially in the upcoming year. They've been rising this year, and I think we're going to see more of them as well, because again, people want more choices, more opportunities, more. People want more all the time.
Do you guys think that trend, like the adaptogen trend and the low and no bar trend and like juice bars, are all going to sort of cross-pollinate and converge into something that we wouldn't maybe recognize in 2025, but something that's kind of non-alcoholic, has adaptogens? You can get something that has wheatgrass in it. It's got Jamba Juice DNA as part of it, but it's also a third place where you can kind of hang out. Do you see those things coming together? Maybe this is wild speculation.
Are you sending us a deck? Are you pitching this to us?
Sounds like you've thought it out.
Oh shit! Yeah, we gotta cut this part out of the show so other people don't beat us to this idea.
I mean, again, there are plenty is a strong word. There are examples out there of 100% non-alcoholic bars. I can't imagine that this wouldn't be a logical next step then, to have a place that's going to offer me maybe a drink that isn't going to get me buzzed from alcohol, but is going to get me feeling good from something else.
Well, the future is weird and scary, which actually brings me nicely to the last thing that I wanted to talk about on this kind of wrap-up show, which is a little bit of candy here at the end. Jim Gaffigan became a bourbon guy during the pandemic, apparently, and has released an entire 45-minute long special that is about just bourbon. Like, it's just whiskey and bourbon jokes the entire time. And some of them are genuinely very funny. I guffawed out loud as I was listening to it last night.
I saw an ad for it. I haven't seen it yet, but he's not the first, I want to point out. Our friend of the show, Bernie Lubbers. Bernie Lubbers started his career as a stand-up comedian and musician. And when he got his first gigs with whiskey companies, that's why they had him on to talk in a lighthearted way and get the audience laughing about whiskey. So, Bernie Lubbers maybe pioneered this very, very niche movement. But I'm glad to hear that it was funny. I like him as an artist and a comedian. I haven't seen this special yet, but I did see that there's a few ads for it out there.
Well, speaking of comedy, and a friend of ours also, which just unfortunately this last week has brought some sad news with it, but I won't focus on that. I want to focus on her friend, Valerie, friend of the show, been on here twice. The drummer in Spinal Tap too. the end
That's right.
continues, and she looks so happy in that movie, just
Unreal.
stoked. I mean, and it's real. She's not an actor. She's very charming, and to be able to play and record with Elton John and Paul McCartney in a session being taped, the smile alone,
Unbelievable,
like, completely real, just pure joy. So, and also to have a cameo of her now fiance in the show, in the movie. It's like just really, really happy for Val, and to see what's going on with that career and her happiness and just life in general. I think it's a really solid, positive thing that's happened this year with a friend of ours, a really close friend of ours, Heather.
She's a gem. The whole bit about her fiance, that was really great. They had, the movie isn't really scripted.
Right.
And they sort of like ad lib it as they go, and they were having it written in that one of the band members was going to hit on Val, and Val was going to reveal that she had this like hunky, super muscular young boyfriend, and he was going to walk on, and Val just happened to mention something about the fact that she's gay, and they're like, this is even better. We'll find like a hot woman to be your girlfriend, and we'll get her on. And Val just goes, well, that's my girlfriend right over there. And they were like, oh my God, she's perfect. So they wrote her in. Really, really brilliant. So and cool. Yeah, the joy on her face when she's banging those drums in that movie is incredible. She's a gem.
Well, hell, I was going to talk about how, Jim Gaffigan has a lot of jokes about, aging and mortality, and like, our time is passing, old friend. Got to move over for the juice bars. But you know what? No, we're gonna keep rocking, even if the kids are listening to Billie Eilish now, and I don't know, complaining that the Xanax isn't strong enough. We're still here, damn it. We still remember punk rock. We're still cool.
The kids are all right.
Yeah, they're okay. We like them all right. Yeah, guys. We say this a lot. Doing this show is one of, if not the absolute best thing that I get to do every week. Love getting to come here. Love getting to talk with so many amazing people, make so many amazing friends. I've been in weddings as a result of people I met who were guests on this show. And I just love getting to be around you guys. You guys are titans of the industry, and it's really inspiring to just be part of this whole thing that we've built together. Thank you.
Yeah. I feel the same, guys. You're 100% right. It's definitely the thing I do each week that brings me the most like joy. I get to chat obviously with the two of you, but also, get to chat with people who I consider legends in my field, or people who I consider, up and comers, or people who I'm just interested in hearing their stories, and the things that they're doing are fascinating to me. And it's amazing. Plus I love that we're now like engaging much better with our Patreon crew as it slowly grows. And, I'm sure Greg will do his little Patreon spiel at the end of the show, but like, if you're not a member,
I actually didn't write a spiel for this week. I was just going to kind of do it off the cuff, but the Patreon's fun. We're going to post a slightly longer. I think I'm going to leave a little bit more good stuff, a little bit more of a holiday feast in the main feed this time, but we'll post a slightly longer version on Patreon if you want to hear the full conversation from today.
Right on.
I also want to say thank you, of course, to echo what you guys are saying, but also I just, for our listeners and their patrons and all that, 15 years I've been doing this, and that's a long time. That's I don't want to tell you my age or anything, but it's a good chunk of, it's a major chunk of my life, and just to be able to do this and talk to the people and provide the information and meet new people, it's the best, so thank you.
Just zip through the thing real fast. January 12th 2011, episode 1 with Brian Miller, and off air, so 15 will be 15 on the 12th. Off air, Greg and I talked about being a little bit better next year at our social media presence, because we're not the best. But we can admit that, and we can get better. I think what I'm going to try and do is we drop the new show every Friday, and we drop a post about it there, and we typically try and post about twice per show. But I think maybe on Wednesdays, I'm going to drop the commiserate 15-year-old episode.
Oh, cool.
Right? In the social media, so people can listen to an old one a week and a new one a week.
Well, the thing about that though is they're only listening to me, and I had that like
That's fine.
had that Howard Stern thing, from the movie where he's like, and like the froggy voice, and I think I had a lot
Wait,
of that.
seriously? I haven't listened to those old episodes in quite a while. I'm not gonna. You were inadvertently providing a real advertisement for listening to these things, Damon.
Yeah.
Listener, if that's not incentive to go back and check out the back catalog, I don't know what is.
Oh, it was so nerdy, so nerdy.
Yeah,
but
that's how it started.
I've met people.
This thing is nerdy.
Yeah, but it's more fun nowadays. Back then it was like. You'll just have to listen to them. but don't. That's 15 years old, so don't judge us now for what was going on then. It's definitely got a lot sharper and cleaner and tighter. So,
the mics are better.
We're slightly more sober, than back in the day when we did it at a bar. But you know what? There's always
mainly the pizza. I think it was the pizza.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm less full of pizza. Well, gentlemen, should we end it there for this year?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, to you, listener, finally, thank you for tuning in, for coming on these conversations, these journeys with us. That's going to do it for us this week. That's going to do it for us for this year. Be sure to tune in 2026. We got a lot more good stuff coming for you. We got a redemption of our 2025 punching bag city of Lansing, Michigan, coming up for our first show of the new year. Tune in for that. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We'll catch you the next time. Cheers,
everybody.
Cheers.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock